I'm sure many of you enjoy horror movies. I know I do. Everybody likes a scary story. If you can endure the fictional story about the boogeyman, it almost makes you feel stronger, makes you feel like you conquered something. There's no real danger in a scary story, because we all know that things don't really go bump in the night. In today's video, I'm going to share a horror story with you. The only difference being, it's not fictional, it's not make-believe, and there really was a boy in the walls. Established in 1676, Townsend is a town in Middlesex County, Massachusetts. The town only has 9,000 people, and as a result, there's a close-knit community to be found there. And a member of that community is named Daniel LaPlante. Born on May 15, 1970, Daniel allegedly suffered traumatic sexual and psychological abuse all throughout his childhood at the hands of his father, and as a teen, at the hands of his psychiatrist. His environment was no less chaotic. His family's house and surrounding grounds were reportedly a mass of junk and old cars. He would go on to attend St. Bernard's High School in Finchburg, where he was described by students and faculty as a loner and not particularly friendly. When interviewed, his peers would specifically describe him as creepy and weird. He was also known for having a disheveled appearance and bad hygiene. His psychiatrist said that this was the result of his hyperactivity disorder. After school, Daniel would go into the forest behind his home. His neighbor noticed this pattern and when interviewed said you'd see him walk there by himself. That's the only place you would see him, the woods. Even though he was diagnosed with a hyperactivity disorder, many people take this with a grain of salt. His psychiatrist abused him in unimaginable ways. So unfortunately, there's little credible information about what encouraged Daniel to be so antisocial and so violent. At the age of 15, Daniel LaPlante became the neighborhood thief. He would break into Townsend homes during the evenings and steal valuables. These antisocial acts weren't enough for Daniel. He would soon graduate to mind games. He would begin leaving things behind and moving things around in neighbors' houses to scare them. In 1986, his mind games turned to pure terror when he became obsessed with 15-year-old Tina Bowen. Tina and Daniel were peers at St. Bernard High School, and that proximity led to Daniel obsessing over Tina. He would go on to break into her house on multiple occasions and began his little mind games, where he would move things around whilst stealing any valuables that were around. These burglaries began in fall of 1986, when he would enter Tina's house through a crawl space and then just remain there. On one occasion, he broke in and didn't begin stealing anything. Instead, he chose to remain in the crawl space and watched Tina and her sister try to contact their recently deceased mother on the Ouija board. While Tina and her sister were playing the game, LaPlante began impersonating a ghost. TV channels were changed, items were rearranged, milk mysteriously was consumed. He did all of this while still stealing from the Bowens family. He even emptied bottles of alcohol without drinking them and scrawled disturbing messages like, "Marry me," and "I'm in your room, come and find me," on the walls in mayonnaise and ketchup. A knife was found pinning a family photograph to the wall. Frank Bowen, Tina's father, initially didn't believe what his daughters were telling him, that somebody was in the house and tormenting them. However, Frank realized that LaPlante was lurking in the home's walls after he and the girls, as well as their friend Kathleen Knapp, noticed someone had used their toilet. This revelation was chronicled in the Celtic Sentinel Report, a local newspaper. Frank Bowen would search through the house and eventually found Daniel wearing a hairy jacket, face paint, and in a closet, wielding a hatchet and a steel wrench. Daniel then calmly forced the group into a nearby bedroom. Tina quickly jumped into action and saved the day by climbing out of a window and running to a neighbor for help. When police arrived, they found Daniel had disappeared without a trace, scaring the Bowen family and prompting them to seek shelter at a nearby hotel. On December 10th, when Frank returned home to retrieve belongings, he spotted a man in the window as he approached the door. Frank quickly called the police, and Officer Brenson arrived and had this to say. "When I opened the door on the right-hand wall, I saw a knife sticking out of the wall. And I see it's through a picture, a family picture, written on it with magic marker. 'I'm still here, come find me.' Now the hair goes up on the back of my head. On another wall, I saw another picture saying, 'I'm gonna kill you all,' with a knife through it. The police would enter the home, and Chief David Young and Sergeant Jim Scott joined the search of the home moments later. It wouldn't be long until they found Daniel. He was hiding in a wall behind the bathroom. He was hiding in a triangular space in the corner, bounded on two sides by a concrete foundation and an inner wall. Daniel had clearly been living there for weeks. Following his arrest, Daniel was held in juvenile facility until October of 1987, when his mother remortgaged her house, ensuring his $10,000 bail. 2 months later, he would go on to commit his worst crime yet. While awaiting trial, Daniel did not stop burglarizing houses. On October 14, 1987, Daniel stole two .22 caliber firearms from a neighboring house. On November 16, 1987, Daniel burglarized the home of the Gustafson family, which included pregnant nursery school teacher Priscilla Gustafson, her husband Andrew, and her two children, 5-year-old William and 7-year-old Abigail. And like before, Daniel wanted to rob this house a second time. He would take the two stolen firearms that he had, go through the forest in his backyard, and break into the Gustafson home. Daniel didn't anticipate everyone being home though, and this miscalculation on Daniel's part will become this family's worst nightmare. According to retired police lieutenant Thomas Lane, Daniel considered jumping out the window and escaping. Instead, he confronted Priscilla with the gun and led her and her son to the bedroom, putting William in the closet and tying Priscilla to the bed using makeshift ligatures and gagging her with one of his socks. Daniel would then go on to assault Priscilla and shoot her twice in the head. He then took William into the bathroom and drowned him. As he was leaving, he encountered Abigail Gustafson, who had returned home on the school bus. He lured Abigail into another room where he drowned her as well. During this gruesome event, Andrew Gustafson was calling his wife all afternoon. Returning to an eerily quiet house with no lights on, Gustafson feared the worst. He would encounter his wife first, lying dead face down on the bedspread. Then he fled the house and called the police. He later reported that he refused to look for the children because I was afraid I would find them dead. According to court documents, it was an easy implication. Daniel left so much forensic evidence after the assault and two murders, there was simply no doubt that he was responsible. He would be arrested that afternoon and interrogated. Initially, there wasn't enough evidence to find him guilty, only because the forensic evidence hadn't been processed yet. After the initial interrogation, he'd be released, and Daniel immediately went on the run. After another burglary spree, Daniel was found hiding in a dumpster and arrested on the evening of December 3rd, 1987. His trial for the Gustafson murders were in October of 1988, and a jury found him guilty of murder, and the judge sentenced him to 3 life sentences. A few decades would pass until 2017 when he appealed for a reduced sentence, but the judge found that he was not remorseful for his crimes, and instead of releasing him early, the judge affirmed Daniel's 3 consecutive terms of life imprisonment. He will not be up for parole for another 45 years. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's Morbid Reality special. There's going to be way more in store for you today and tomorrow to celebrate the end of this spooky month. Today you're going to get 5 uploads, one from now all the way up until 5 p.m. and all of it is going to be haunting and terrifying, so I hope you guys are ready. And as always, I gotta thank the Patreon supporters that make content like this possible. A big thank you to The Blurred Star, Mr. Sandman, Mike, Sleepy Dragon, Power Lover, Loving Tate, Tron Destroy 23, Code Connor Purvis, S16, Squish, Rare Days, My Golden Experience, James Tucker, BMX30, Cinnamon Sticks, Scott, The Fake Musician, Buckethead, Samantha Bellhart, Admin Faneker, Bloody Hunter, Keely, Dundernass Hawk, Swiss Patreon user, and Noah. Thank you so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And if you want to help support the channel, there's 2 links in the description, one on my merch store and one on my Patreon. Both funds go directly into the channel so I can maintain what's happening here. And as always, stay zesty.